Live. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Upper Hand Fantasy Podcast. This is Faraz and Zach. I'm here with Zach Rizzuto. We are getting into some buys and sells going into week 4. I just got done with like a 2-hour podcast with the Podfather, Mind of Mansion, on his Roto Underworld podcast. I'm quite exhausted from speaking. However, the show must go on. The show
Duty
must
calls.
Duty calls. I have to talk about a bunch of guys that were looking to buy, some guys that were looking to sell. There isn't too much news as of right now. There are a couple things just to quickly mention. Dennis Allen does not expect Jameis Winston to miss this week. It's possible that Andy Dalton ends up getting in there. However, it's looking like Jameis Winston. We'll see what the status is on guys like Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry in terms of their injuries and whether it is, if they're going to be able to make it to the game this week or not. Either way, Chris Olave is that dude. Zach Wilson is going to be making his season debut this week. That's already been confirmed by their head coach, Robert Saleh. So we'll see if Elijah Moore can rise from the dead. He's already seeing the most routes run on that team, so we're hoping that he gets some targets. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Anything else on the top of your head that you can think of news-wise?
Yeah, the only thing I have is just Zach Wilson. So you covered that. I mean, I think that about does it. It's kind of that dead spot in the week where we got a game coming tomorrow, but we're also a day removed from Monday Night Football. It's a lot of just reports flying around.
Yeah, we'll see.
Not much going on.
Yeah, and the practice reports are going to start coming in. Don't take Wednesday too heavily, but just kind of have it. Have these anybody who's not practicing on Wednesday. It's not the end of the world, but something to look forward, something to keep an eye on moving into Thursday. Because we can see a full practice pop up for those guys on Thursday if they don't practice on Wednesday. You never know. Could be rest days for veterans.
Yeah.
All right, let's get right into it, man. Why not? A couple guys are buying low and selling high on. Well, actually, no, not necessarily buying low on, but guys just that were buying, right?
Yeah.
Guys that just were selling. You don't have to buy somebody extremely low. You don't have to sell somebody extremely high. Sometimes you want to buy a guy high, like Chris Olave, right? Chris Olave had a huge week last week, had a crazy utilization the week before. He's somebody that I would look to buy high, right? Guys like that.
Yeah.
Is anybody else, off the top of your head, like who's had really, really good production so far, or maybe just a 1 week or two? Any of these guys that you're trying to buy right now?
We mentioned CeeDee Lamb. He just had a good performance.
Yes.
It just came up. He actually capitalized on the target and the target share that he was getting, the work that he was getting. And it wasn't awesome, though. It was good. It was more promising. He had 8 catches, 87 yards, and a touchdown. But I think it's not nearly close to what the ceiling was thought to be before, everything went down in week 1 and 2. Maybe you could buy CeeDee Lamb. Like, he just had a good week.
Yeah.
That's not really a buy low situation, but he's still lower, I think, than where he was heading into the season. If you need help, Dak's going to be coming back soon. There's still no timetable, so that could have whoever has him in your league a little antsy for what his production could be the next 2 weeks, because it was the Giants. They're not an awesome team. It's not like they were playing against the Packers, and they did play against the Buccaneers defense, and he didn't do very well. So he might think that might be matchup dependent. Whoever has him, you might be able to buy CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, no, I like that one, actually. That's a good one, because he's been doing his thing, but he's still making people nervous, for whatever reason, right?
He did have that bad drop, so he left stuff on the table, production on the table.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that's a good one. I like that one. All right, so one of these guys that I was looking to buy, throughout the first couple weeks was James Conner, right?
Mm-hmm.
James Conner, obviously I loved him coming into the year, slow start to the year, slow start for that entire offense, to be honest with you, right? But James Conner, obviously had that ankle injury week 2. That's going to slow things down even more. He ended up sharing some of that work in week 3, which made a lot of sense. The fact that he played, that's a great sign for him moving forward into week 4. But I think I'd take advantage of him not even scoring a touchdown yet, because he is their 3-down back. He is playing. He had 60% of snaps in week 3. He had 18 opportunities in week 3, which is really good considering the fact that he was sharing the load with 2 other running backs. He's a primary goal line guy. He's a primary 2-minute drill guy. He's a primary 3rd down guy. on an offense that is going to improve, right? They're going to get Rondell Moore back. They're going to get DeAndre Hopkins back. This offense is not the type of offense that we've been expecting, right? Through, 3 weeks of the season. And they have their times when they turn it on. So it's looking like, Connor's going to have his weeks, and, you could potentially grab him right now, as an RB2, hoping that he ends up becoming a low end RB2 at some point. I'm sorry, low end RB1 at some point.
I like James Conner. We talked about James Conner a lot, heading into the season, how he could be a value. And I think he is still a value, even with the production that he's turned back these first few weeks. If I have James Conner, I'm not looking to sell him, but obviously if you can buy him, definitely go and buy him, because we said this offense is missing a lot of pieces yet. And they've still been producing. Obviously, it's been in spurts. It hasn't been consistent, and a lot of it's fallen on Kyler Murray's shoulders to get the production going. But eventually, this offense will balance out. Teams might be able to stack the box a little bit more against James Conner than they would like now without DeAndre Hopkins and Rondell Moore around. It's just Marquise Brown they have to deal with. When they have all those weapons on the perimeter, things could open up in the run game pretty quick for James Conner. And not only that, but the offense will be able to move faster. They'll be able to move down the field quicker and more efficiently. And then that's kind of where James Conner made his money last season at the goal line, where he was just getting all the touchdowns right there on the goal line in the 5, inside the 5, all those money touches. So you can buy James Conner and, lean on the fact that this Cardinals offense will get better. You don't have to, you can look at it as right now the offense isn't very good, but it's going to get better because of those guys are going to come back from injury, from suspension. And, the Cardinals offense will be much better. James Conner will be a much better fantasy asset. I'm 100% in agreement with this buy.
And he's going to get his targets too. It's not all about the touchdowns, right? Like, we would have seen some massive target shares in week 2 and week 3, you know what I'm saying? Given the fact that they were missing some of their guys. And we would have seen the massive target share if he didn't get hurt. So 18 opportunities in this game. He got his targets in this game as well. I'm looking for James Conner to not only kill it in the touchdown department, but also kill it in the reception department too. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ends the year with 50 catches despite missing, or 50 or 60 catches despite missing a lot of this time, early in the year. You mentioned another James Robinson. And listen, he continues to be a solid start. And I know people are going to be mad at me about this. People are going to be mad for us. Like, how can you sell James Robinson? But listen, I am taking advantage of the situation here. Okay. I'm taking advantage of the above expected fantasy points that he's scoring compared to what his opportunity looks like. When there's a massive delta between the fantasy points scored and between the type of opportunity that he's getting, that's an opportunity to sell for a player who you would not have been able to get otherwise. Okay. Can you grab a wide receiver 1 right now with James Conner? You might be able to. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, with James Robinson. I did the same thing you did. With James Robinson, you might be able to. Will you be able to go get, an Alvin Kamara plus something? You might be able to. Will you be, depending on the league that you're in, you're going to be able to buy a lot. What James Robinson affords you right now is buying power right now. While his 4 touchdowns in 3 weeks, right? He's a current RB3. People are dying out there for running backs. Okay. So it's just not sustainable what he's done so far, given his early down role. So I'm looking at teams in my league who need a running back desperately. I'm looking at the wide receivers. I'm like, AJ Brown looks kind of good right now. Try to get some AJ Brown. CeeDee Lamb. You worried about CeeDee Lamb? I'll take him off your hands. Players like that. Devontae Adams. You worried about him? Yeah, he hasn't got the targets. He hasn't got the receiving yards. So, and for a lot of people, for people like me, that seems silly. Like, I would never trade Devontae Adams for a guy like him. Someone worried about Justin Jefferson. 1 amazing week in week 1, 2 duds in a row.
Yeah.
I might have to add on to that trade, obviously. Maybe give a wide receiver 2 plus James Robinson for somebody with that type of, with that type of ceiling, with that type of listen, I'll say this. James Robinson right now, he's a good start.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think that you got to take advantage when these guys are elevated and not get caught in like the excitement of how good your late round player was. You know what I'm saying? And this is not because I'm a Travis Etienne guy. Okay. This has nothing to do with that. It's just that I know that James Robinson is the start over Travis Etienne, obviously. This week, They're going up against the Eagles. It might be a good time to give up James Robinson.
Yeah. And, we're not saying that, James Robinson isn't going to continue to play well.
No.
It's been a miraculous comeback, nothing short of miraculous comeback, the way he's turned around from the Achilles tear not even a year ago. And he's playing very well at a high level. Good for him. Awesome. We're not saying that he's not going to continue to play well, but his value is super inflated right now because of his production. And you're 100% right. Fantasy football, it's a business, if you want to call it that. It's not nothing personal.
It's not personal.
Yeah, just business. But you got to look at it as James Robinson now has this inflated value way beyond what you drafted him at. Your player has appreciated to the point where you can go and get somebody that was drafted third, fourth round, maybe even second round. James Robinson, each week, he will continue to start for you. He'll continue to play well. He'll get the touches. But his ceiling is capped with Travis Etienne there because they're not going to just hand it to James Robinson and be like, all right, Travis Etienne, we're not going to hear from you anymore this season. No, it's still a backfield there in Jacksonville. But now you have people valuing him maybe as a very high end, RB3 or even an RB2, higher than we thought he was going to. We thought Travis Etienne might have have control over the backfield. It's clearly not the case. You have to take advantage of it because, like I said, his ceiling's capped. His value's way up right now. You can go get someone that's going to build on your team. Chances are you had James Robinson on your bench going into the season, and now he's just an added piece. You don't need to have him. You might have other running backs that you like. You can go get better at a position you're not at, even at tight end. Go get a Mark Andrews maybe if someone's well, maybe not Mark Andrews. You won't be able to trade for it, but Travis Kelce, he had a couple iffy weeks the past few weeks. So go get somebody that's going to make your roster overall, your starting roster, better because you probably drafted James Robinson to sit on your bench and just in case anything happened to Travis Etienne, but that hasn't been the case. It's a value game.
Yeah, man. I'm with you on that one. Ryan in the chat, he was asking, should I trade Lockett and Michael Carter for Austin Eckler? Right. And Austin Eckler, someone who has been disappointing over the first couple of weeks, his usage has been pretty disappointing over the first couple of weeks. And, last week, Justin Herbert, not himself, that entire Chargers team, not themselves, banged up on defense as well. But, are you looking at Eckler to bounce back? And for me personally, this seems like a pretty done deal for me, right? Like Lockett and Carter, yes, I am trading those two guys for Austin Eckler. And I don't think that's a pretty easy one. Would you say?
I think so because Lockett, he's on a bad offense, and Michael Carter, I think he was benefiting a lot from Joe Flacco being the quarterback. I think we might see more Breece Hall with Zach Wilson at quarterback, but that remains to be seen. Eckler has the upside. We know what he can be. He's been underperforming, as has the Chargers offense. You have to keep that in mind. So if you're getting Eckler, if things turn around for Los Angeles, you're in good shape. Eckler has a lot more value than Lockett and Carter right now. And
yeah. I agree. And Zach in the comments here is asking, should I trade Tyler Conklin, and ETN for Breece Hall? And Breece Hall is one of the guys that I wanted to talk about today as a buy. And, he's heating up right now, right? And, I want to buy him before he goes off because I feel like he's on the precipice. He's right there. And there's going to be a game where he has 150 yards from scrimmage. He breaks a long run for a touchdown. It's going to happen at some point. He has that breakaway speed. He finally outstepped Michael Carter on Sunday, being heavily used in the receiving game. And the fact that he's starting to get a higher share of the rushing work as well, this is pointing to potential, RB1 usage at some point, maybe in the next couple of weeks. So yes, I am making this deal. ETN right now isn't like really startable, to be honest. He's like a flex play at best. For Breece Hall, he's an RB2 right now based on his usage, and he can be on his way to an RB1. So you're buying him low, and he's a potential league winner for me.
Yeah, I think that's a fair analysis. I wish we saw more ETN because, like I said, he passes the eye test so well, like with flying colors. He looks so good, so explosive, but he's just not getting the touches. I wouldn't call him unstartable. I think you can start him as a flex and get away with it because I think anytime he touches the ball, he's a chance to go for a big gain, score. He can do that. We don't want to undervalue his talent, but you look at the usage that Breece Hall is getting, you're going to have much better luck shooting the moon with Breece Hall than you are Travis Etienne at this point. Even if you have to give up Tyler Conklin, I'm not sure if that's the driving factor in your trade. I don't know if the guy that you're trading to wants Tyler Conklin, But
I
I
think
don't think.
it's possible that that guy desperately needs a tight end, and
Yeah.
he's the one who picked him up off of waivers and not him. He got
Right.
outbid on waivers last night,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and now he's like, "Damn it! All right, whatever. I'll give up Brees Hall. Give me Conklin, and give me Lockett." And he's just desperate, right?
Right.
But yeah, I'm making that deal for sure. Savage Gamer 8121 is asking in the chat, should I trade James Robinson and Michael Williams for Tyreek Hill? This is exactly the type of deal that I want to make. Okay, this is, you trade up, you get your stud Tyreek Hill. You know, if I can turn James Robinson somehow, obviously you give it up Mike Williams, I'm okay with that, right? Michael
Yeah.
Williams had what did he do last week? Had a touchdown. He did
He
nothing
had a
else.
touchdown. It was not a high scoring game for him. I'll pull it up.
Yeah,
But
I think he only caught a couple balls in that game,
yeah,
maybe
no,
two.
it wasn't what you'd expect. It wasn't what we
Yeah.
saw in week 2.
So
We know that.
get rid of him. Get rid of Mike Williams. He's going to frustrate you all year long. Okay, and Keenan Allen's coming back. Tyreek Hill, he's going to be a monster. He's a wide receiver 1. This is exactly the type of deal that I would love to make. Trade James Robinson, trade Mike Williams, get Tyreek Hill. I love it. I love it.
And go with that trade just quick. You know, the way I kind of look at it is you're trading Mike Williams for Tyreek Hill straight up because, like I said, chances are you took James Robinson and you weren't expecting him to have any type of value. So now he's just an add-on, the guy that you weren't going to have on your team really starting in the first place, and you're getting Tyreek Hill. Like, so I think that's an awesome trade. And that's kind of what James Robinson gives you, that versatility.
100%, man. He's one of those guys. Just take advantage of it. Just take advantage of it. Angel in the comments, Ortega, is asking, should I trade Olave for Curtis Samuel or ask for more? I would ask for more here. I think Olave, see Curtis Samuel, you know, he's been getting it done every single week. He's getting the high target share every single week, and he's a solid, I think he's a wide receiver 2 at this point, especially in PPR leagues. But Olave is already wide receiver 2 to me. And I think Olave's ceiling is just way higher than Samuel, right? Olave is being targeted down the field, so he's getting some serious air yards and getting targeted down the field. And he was already being targeted ahead of Michael Thomas last week. So I would personally ask for more here if you can. It doesn't have to be so much more. But you know, the thing is, like, you're kind of decreasing the upside of your team by making this deal. Like, you might get something maybe a little bit more, you know, every week type of, you know, production. But Olave looks to me, it's looking to me like Olave is a stud right now. And it's possible that he has a ridiculous type of year. And I think this would be a type of deal where you might regret it later on. Remember, we're riding this train with Curtis Samuel right now. Curtis Samuel hasn't been able to stay healthy. Okay, so it would really suck if you trade away a prospect like Olave after killing 2 weeks in a row, usage wise, for someone who ends up getting hurt. And I don't want to say that these guys are going to get hurt, but like, it's the reality of it, right? You kind of have to take that into consideration. So yes, I would definitely ask for more. All right, let's get back into a couple of these buys and sells real quick before I answer some more of the comments here. Let's see. Treylon Burks, man. We talked about him yesterday, right? Like, if you guys heard the podcast yesterday, we talked about Treylon Burks. He ran a route on almost every one of Ryan Tannehill's dropbacks, I think, except one in week 3. So that's a milestone that we have been waiting for him to get anywhere close to. His low output, the 1 catch day, is literally a blessing in disguise. Like, I love this situation. From, you know, if I don't have Treylon Burks, I love it because I can go grab him, right? And the way that we've been talking about him yesterday was that you try to buy him as like an add-on to another player, right? You take one of your players, right? You have one player that you kind of put out on the trade block. You ask for another player, but you're like, you know what? Let's add Treylon Burks onto that deal, right? And Burks just ends up being the add-on there because he didn't do anything. He hasn't done anything all year long, right? So far. However, the usage spiked all the way up to him being a full-time player, and he's the guy to have. Robert Woods had a little bit of production last week. I'm selling him. Okay. You know, Burks is the wide receiver that you want. So Woods is like an add-on in a deal, right? Like, you're giving away, and Burks is like an add-on in a deal that you're receiving. That's kind of how I'm dealing with it.
And I don't know if you saw the one report that just came out, I think it was this morning, that the Titans coaching staff actually acknowledged that they want to get Treylon Burks more involved, even more involved than just, you know, the 100% route participation that we saw. You know, getting him actually the ball would be excellent now, especially if you're buying him this week. You know, we'll see how it turns out on Sunday, but you know, that's only good news for a guy that's going to be sitting on your bench. You know, he's a shadow ad. You're gonna add him in the shadow of another player, and no one's gonna see it coming.
I love that. The shadow ad.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That has to be like a segment for this show. Like at the end
Shadow
of the
ads.
show, we do the shadow ads,
Yeah,
right?
we could, because that's what you do. That's what you're doing with Traylon Burks in this situation. You can do it with a lot of other players too.
I love it. I love it. All right. A guy that I'm buying, and I would literally trade James Robinson 1-for-1 right now, and you might be able to, is Leonard Fournette. The Bucks offense is completely out of sorts right now. Fournette has yet to score a touchdown. He's yet to be peppered in the pass game like we're used to. So I'm expecting this offense to find its footing at some point. I was just on the podcast with Fantasy Mansion, and he on the Roto Underworld podcast, and Matt was saying that the number one team with the highest point differential in the NFC, despite how shitty they have been, was the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah,
So it's interesting, once they actually do get their weapons back, how good that team is going to be. So I'm expecting the offense to get better. I expect them to, Leonard Fournette's underlying usage right now is elite.
yeah,
90% of snaps, 70% of route participation. Like this is elite. This is exactly what you want to see from a high end RB1. Okay, so I would easily trade for Leonard Fournette right now. I would take advantage of his weeks that he's had, and you're looking at somebody who could potentially be top 6, top 7 of running back when it's all said and done at the end of the year.
yeah, 100%. We know Leonard Fournette has done very good work with the Buccaneers as far as fantasy production, and I think people are panicking a little bit over the entire Buccaneers offense not being that good. This is clearly not going to be the norm for the Buccaneers. They did just play the Packers, who have a very good defense, while they were severely undermanned. They're retooling right now. They're going to get their guys back, and when they play against a defense that's not the Packers, they're going to find their groove pretty quickly. And then once they get that groove, Tom Brady will keep them in that groove for the rest of the season. The offense will be better. Leonard Fournette will be better. There'll be more touchdowns to go around. I think that's 100%.
What do you think about this trade that's on the screen right now from Andrew Tan on YouTube? Would you trade Najee Harris 1-for-1 for Fournette right now?
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat, dude. Do it.
I think so. Yeah.
If you could get that done, I'm doing that all day long.
Look at the
Much better.
offenses they're on.
It's like it's a similar usage. It's a similar usage between the two guys. You don't
Yeah.
have to worry about Najee's injury, like it's a little looming, right? We don't know if it's
Mhm.
completely gone. Probably not. And number two, look at the offense, like you said. Easy
Yeah,
peasy.
that's an easy one. And that could go either way. Depends if you're maybe a Steelers fan or just a Najee Harris fan. We know what Najee can be, but he hasn't been that. It's just the offense is so bad. There's almost no touchdown upside for Najee because the way they've been getting their touchdowns has not been through the ground. It's just been, it's frustrating because I was huge. I was huge on Najee Harris coming into the season. You know that. I was huge. I said,
oh yeah.
Give me the guy had 1,200 yards, 70 some receptions, and it's just not coming to fruition. I'm ready to unload Najee if it's for Fournette, 100%.
Yep. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is like one of the most obvious sells right now. I think for some people they're enjoying the fantasy points, so they don't want to admit that CEH is very overinflated, right?
Yeah.
11.3 touches per game over the first 3 games of the season, but yet he's the overall RB4, right behind James Robinson on the year.
Yeah.
So last week we talked about it yesterday. On Sunday he ran the ball 7 times, 0 yards. Okay. Jerick McKinnon, he outsnapped him 2 games in a row. So while I have the chance, while he's scoring, I'm trying to get rid of him. I'm trying to sell him. And you can get some stuff, man. Like if you put a package together with CEH, I don't think it'll be anything to like sneeze at. I think people are going to consider it. So, obviously it depends on what type of league you're in. It depends on, the person that you're trading with. Someone like me who looks at all the underlying data, I'm not going to buy CEH, right?
Yeah.
However, and you don't want to give him away. However, for a lot of people who look at fantasy points scored, it's very attractive when you see like the type of fantasy points that he scored 1, 2, and 3, right? So like that's gonna have some weight. That's gonna have some value. So if you have CEH, I'm selling. He does not have a role that you want, despite this being a good offense. It's not a role that's sustainable right now.
Right. And we just talked about, how he had 7 carries for 0 yards. he's not even the receiving back. He's not the clear-cut receiving back in that not I was talking about Patrick Mahomes in the Chiefs offense. But we talked about usage all the time, how it's not adding up. It's not. People, like you said, are probably riding the production. Like, oh, I wonder how long I can ride this out. But it's kind of slowed down. He's not where he was at week 1. It's the production's still there relative to where you bought him or you got him in the draft. But you don't want it to fizzle out on you, and then his value just plummets. And that's kind of where it goes with these guys.
Because then he's going to be impossible to sell.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to offload him. But then you're not going to want to get him off your bench. He's going to be taking up a bench spot because you'll be thinking, oh, well, he had that production at the beginning of the season. Will he get back to it? And then chances are you'll start him a week or two, and then he'll screw you. So it's like you can get rid of a lot of problems, upcoming problems that we're anticipating, and get value back for him. I don't think you're going to have very much luck selling him on his own, but as an add-on, I think he'd be like really attractive. It's like, oh, here's a guy with RB2 upside alongside this other guy that I might be buying. People might see that a lot better than just CEH. But there's a lot with that goes with CEH. You can get rid of those issues in the future and go get someone that's much safer or higher upside.
That's a great point. Just get rid of the headache now while you can.
Yeah,
because that's true. You're gonna put
the headache might not be here. He's gonna
give you like 5 points 1 week, and you're gonna be like, "What the hell?" Yeah, it's because you can't sustain a touchdown every single week.
As soon as that happens, people are gonna be like, "Oh, well, we knew it was coming. Now his value is none."
Exactly.
They might not be crapping on him right now, but they're just waiting in the wings. I think at least that's me.
So we got a couple of questions here in the chat. This one's from Spencer. He's asking, trade Curtis Samuel for Jamal. Should I trade Curtis Samuel for Jamal Williams? Jamal was picked up on waivers week 1, so he wasn't on waivers this week. I don't think I'm making this deal unless like I am absolutely desperate for running back production. Now, it's possible that you picked up Curtis Samuel off of waivers. You're really good at running back. However, listen, Jamal Williams has been killing it. He's been doing his thing. There is that looming possibility that Jamal Williams isn't an every down back, right? There's a possibility that Craig Reynolds ends up eating into more of his share than we think. Kind of what happened last year when DeAndre Swift was out. Jamal Williams didn't play that role. Now, we're kind of banking on the fact that since Jamal Williams has been killing it this year, he's going to continue to do that, right? However, there is that risk. Then what happens? You just lost a wide receiver too, right? Yeah. And Swift is going to be back at some point. And Jamal Williams isn't going to sustain the type of production that he's had with Swift over the past couple of weeks. So I wouldn't expect that type of production, right? He's been scoring touchdowns, but I don't think that's going to be happening every week when Swift comes back. So yes, you'll have 2 weeks of Jamal Williams potentially, but this is a tough deal for me. If I were to make this deal, I would ask for a wide receiver back. But you could be in a tough spot. I totally understand that. If you are in a tough spot at your RB2, I'd rather trade Curtis Samuel for a running back that you can use all year long, and then maybe package up Curtis Samuel with somebody else for that running back instead. That's kind of how I would deal with it.
I think that's good. And the way I look at Jamal Williams is his production with DeAndre Swift has been overproduction. I don't think his ceiling has gotten any higher. I think it's just more secure, his production now. Before it was like he was producing despite DeAndre Swift being on the field. Now he's just going to produce. I think it's going to be very similar to the way we've seen him produce the past few weeks, where he scores a touchdown or two that makes him very relevant. He can run the ball, but we also know that the Lions have Amon-Ra St. Brown in the pass game. They have TJ Hawkinson. They have DJ Chark. And they've actually been kind of pass first when you think about it. And the offense has been good. And they'll be able to operate just fine with Jamal Williams. I don't know if I like Curtis Samuel for Jamal Williams. Like I said, like you said, if you're in desperate need of a running back right now, I think you can maybe justify it. But otherwise, I'm just keeping my hands off that.
Which side of the deal are you on with this one from Kevin? ETN or Michael Carter in full PPR?
ETN.
Me too.
I think so.
See, the thing with Michael Carter is that his role is diminishing, right? And
yeah,
if you ask me, like, who am I going to start this week? It's probably going to be ETN because Philly is going to, potentially pose some problems for the Jaguars. We thought the Chargers might do that, but Philly has a much better chance of doing that this week, and we might see a lot of ETN on the field. Now, moving forward, ETN is the guy who's more explosive, the higher draft capital, the guy that the Jaguars are probably going to get involved at some point. Remember, this is just his third game in the NFL that he just completed, going into his fourth game. James Robinson has that experience. That's part of the reason why ETN, isn't necessarily, he doesn't have a higher share. This is not a true 50-50 split on early downs. ETN is electric, and there's a chance that he ends up breaking out at some point this year. Can't really say the same thing for Michael Carter. So I'd rather have ETN. I think he's a guy who can ascend to a better role at some point this year.
Yeah, and like we said, Brees Hall's heating up, and Michael Carter could just see his role diminish and diminish and diminish. Not that he's going to be completely alienated from the target share or from the snap share, but Brees Hall, they drafted him to be the guy. And if he shows that he can be the guy, there's no reason for Michael Carter to be taking too many significant snaps. We could see Brees Hall's snap share go up, his target share go up, and just his production go up overall. ETN has the upside. James Robinson's there. But like I said, you don't want to rely on this completely, but the eye test, ETN's obviously explosive when he gets the ball. Michael Carter, I think, he's been good, but to use your term, I think he's just a guy. So
I would disagree with that. I think Michael Carter is better than just a guy, but I hear what you're saying. Like he's more just a guy than Travis Etienne. But I think he's good. Just not as good as Brees Hall.
Carter's good, but I think that part of his appeal is kind of coming from Joe Flacco and having all that target share that he's got. You're not going to get all those catches. I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he's just a guy as a talent, but for fantasy purposes, he's just a guy. I think he's overproducing. So
I understand. That makes sense. So he's just a guy for fantasy. Yeah, I agree. As a talent, I think he's a little bit better than that. But I hear what you're saying now. A guy that we disagreed on yesterday. I'm buying him as Alvin Kamara, and you were definitely hesitant to buy Alvin Kamara. So and I think I put out the video on Instagram too yesterday. Neither the Saints offense or Kamara is at 100% right now, right? And the underlying usage, it kind of bounced back to what we're kind of used to for the most part, 70% of snaps, most of the rushing attempts. He ran around on 60% of the dropbacks, and he's had single-digit fantasy outputs so far this year. So that's not going to happen, right? And I think that he is going to end up, being, if he's not an RB1, I think at the very least he could be a high-end RB2 this year. The offensive line isn't good right now. This offense as a whole is banged up a little bit, but I think, they'll get a little bit better. Like I think they will be pass first, and I think that's going to benefit Kamara, at some point. He's not healthy right now, and I think moving forward, he's going to have better games. There's no world where, besides the one we're living in right now, where Alvin Kamara has single-digit weeks, 2 weeks in a row, where you have this opportunity. So I might not be expecting the world from Kamara, like RB1 type of, work, but I think he's going to have RB1 weeks. He's going to have top 5 weeks, but he might not be that every week, in my top 12 type of guy. But I think high-end RB1 is very close to where I think he'll end up being.
High-end RB1, you said?
I'm sorry, high-end RB2. That's what I said. Sorry.
Because so that's my thing. If I'm an Alvin Kamara owner, I drafted him to be my high-end RB1, and he hasn't done anything close to that. At the same time, if I'm a Kamara owner, I'm not looking to sell him because we know what he can be, and people are going to be shooting you crap offers for him, chances are. So
yes, most likely. Yeah,
so that's why I look at it. It's like it's going to be very difficult to sell Kamara because you're going to get a bunch of crap offers, but it's difficult for me to justify buying him.
If you're 0-3, if you're 0-3 and you have Kamara, you got to be looking to potentially think about moves. Now, you don't want to accept shitty deals, right? But you have to make a move, right? To potentially, be competitive moving forward because you need some wins right now, right? And I don't think you're in the mindset where Alvin Kamara is going to bounce back in week 4, right? So you're like, all right, well, how can I give Kamara up to potentially get some guaranteed outcomes for me to get that W, so I can move on to week 5, 1-4 or 1-3.
Yeah, I think the only thing with me for Kamara is I look at the offense, I see it fundamentally changed from the offense that we saw Kamara thrive in, and it's just we said Chris Olave is getting all these targets. Michael Thomas is there. Jameis Winston is a completely different quarterback. The offensive line actually has issues. They lost around
real issues.
They tried replacing him with Trevor Penning. He hasn't even started. So It's a lot of issues on the Saints offense. It's not the same explosive Saints offense that we've had in the past that's powered Alvin Kamara. And that's what kind of has me wondering, is Kamara getting exposed? Is he just, I'm not saying that he's not talented, but could his production have been dependent on the offense overall being good? Because right now, he doesn't look like the same guy that people are drafting him to be. And obviously, there were the questions about whether he's going to be suspended or not. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. But this doesn't bode well for his prospects going into the rest of the season. I can't really justify buying him because it hasn't shown me anything yet this season that is worth buying. Yeah.
I hear you. What I'm buying is this. I'm buying the usage that he's kind of getting back to, right? And that usage just points to good production. And we know that Alvin Kamara is a good player. I don't think he necessarily lost. He's not the same guy he was a couple years ago, right? I think that's clear, right? He's not the same guy who was just highlight reel after highlight reel after highlight reel. But I think he's gotten to the point where he can give you solid production on a weekly basis. This offense is going to find its footing. I'm hoping that they depend on him more in the receiving game, right? You don't want Alvin Kamara to have to, have 20 carries in a game. You don't need that. What you need is like 12 to 13 carries a game, 7 targets a game. That's what you want, right? And that's
Yeah.
what I think can end up happening. I do think they're going to end up using him in the receiving game once he's right. So I only want to buy him because he's dirt cheap right now, and I think that depending on the situation that a lot of these fantasy managers are in with Alvin Kamara, if they're 0-3, I think they're going to want to make a move, and you might be able to get Kamara on the cheap. That's the only reason.
I think that's fair. It's hard to get hurt at a price that's as low as it is right now, but at the same time, it's just I don't think there's enough there to justify moving a bunch of players that you likely have to move to get them right now.
I get
That's
that.
just me.
Yep.
And we're different fantasy managers. I don't have Alvin Kamara in any leagues. I don't know if you do.
I don't either.
So we're pretty unbiased here. Neither of us have Alvin Kamara. Take what you want from this conversation that we just had. But
exactly. Now let me ask you a question, man. After week 2, I tweeted out and I said that it's time to buy Juju. Right? Juju had a tough matchup. And he had a decent game in week 1. 20% higher than 20% target share in week 1. In week 3, he disappeared. But, a relatively tough matchup against the Chargers out of the slot. And then he had a pretty good game in week 3. High target share, more than 20%. Again, he just didn't score any touchdowns yet. And I feel like those touchdowns are going to come at some point. So Juju to me is looking like somebody that, he's been scoring like a low-end wide receiver 3, maybe a flex play right now. That's how he's been scoring like a flex, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think there is some low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3 untapped potential here with Juju because of the fact that he hasn't scored a touchdown yet. If those touchdowns do come with the type of targets and receptions that he got in week 1 and he got in week 3, I feel like people are sleeping on Juju a little bit in what he's capable of on this offense.
I think so. I mean, you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, and that's really all you need to know. The Chiefs don't have a standout wide receiver right now. Juju, I think, fits the mold as the guy with the best opportunity to kind of jump out and be that guy. If you can get him low, you're talking about him as a buy, right?
Oh yeah. 26% target share this past week. Same thing as Travis Kelce, who also had a 26% target share. In week 1, let me see. I'm looking at it right now. Juju ended up having a 21% target share, and Travis Kelce had a 23% target share. So these are the two guys that Patrick Mahomes is looking for. There's no other guys on this offense outside of the running backs that Patrick Mahomes is throwing to. So Juju Smith-Schuster, has some boom weeks coming.
Mm-hmm. I think his upside outweighs the risk that you'd be getting. I don't think you'd have to trade much for Juju.
I think he's going to end up giving you a high floor regardless. Yeah, he didn't get it done for you in week 2, but it was a tough matchup. This wide receivers disappear all the time. Look at Justin Jefferson, like 2 weeks in a row, disappeared. All right, we're not giving up on Justin Jefferson. Obviously, we know he's a great player, but I think Juju's going to have a high floor in PPR every single week. For the most part, I would say like 13 out of 17 weeks, he's going to have a high floor, and then 5 or 6 of those weeks, he's going to score a touchdown, maybe more, and he's going to give you a boom week. And I think those 20-point games are coming for Juju Smith-Schuster based on the offense he's on, based on the quarterback that he's paired up with.
Yeah, I think you take advantage of disgruntled Juju owners.
I
That's the way
agree.
I see it. That's the way you have to be.
He just hasn't scored a touchdown yet. That's
Yeah.
literally the only thing wrong with Juju. Like any other receiver, you'll be happy with that type of production that he's had in weeks 1 and week 3.
Yeah.
We talked about Austin Eckler a bit. Are you worried about Austin Eckler, dude? Like, are you worried that his, you know, his usage hasn't been there? Because it hasn't. These other running backs have been involved, and he only got a handful of carries in week. Are you worried a little bit?
Well, yeah, definitely a little bit. There's panic and there's worry. I'm worried. I'm not panicked. Uh, I don't think the Chargers offense is anything close to what it should be. And for whatever reason that is, I don't know. Justin Herbert, he's banged up. They just lost Rashawn Slater for the whole year. The injury bug is once again rearing its ugly head for the Chargers. And I think that's kind of causing the Chargers offense to fall off a little bit. Eckler, even with the offense not performing well, Eckler hasn't seen the workload. But you wonder if as these injuries pile up, someone's going to have to get the ball. Can Austin Eckler kind of reclaim that role? That's what I'm kind of hanging on to. That's what's keeping me from full out panicking on Austin Eckler. I think that the blowout against Jacksonville was a bit of an aberration. I don't think that's something that we have to worry about seeing too much in the future. But the Chargers offense isn't anywhere near as dynamic as it was last season. Justin Herbert, he's banged up. And Austin Eckler hasn't had the workload. I think things can get better, but I don't know if he has any longer that upside that people were chasing with drafting him very early in the first round.
My concern is him losing the goal line carries, right?
Yeah.
Because
And
without the
we
goal
did
line
talk about that.
carries, that is going to be a big change in role for him. Because last year, those goal line carries led him to getting 20 touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? Like he had a bunch of receiving touchdowns as well, but those goal line touchdowns were a big part of his success. And if he doesn't get that, then this is not a great situation for him. Because if he's only getting like 13, 14 touches a game, obviously he's still going to have that ceiling, but that floor kind of disappears. And that ceiling that he had, well, actually the ceiling actually decreases because of the fact that he's not getting those goal line touches. So that's a situation to monitor. Now, I think he's still a buy. I think he's still somebody that's going to be undervalued. And I think a lot of the trades that I've been seeing to get Eckler has been like really underwhelming. So like I think people aren't really selling Eckler for much right now. Another guy that people aren't selling for much right now and is dirt cheap is Elijah Moore. And I think it's a little obvious to try to trade for Elijah Moore right now with Zach Wilson coming back. It's like you're obviously trading him because of a potential spike in Elijah Moore's target share this week with a new quarterback, right? Like that happens all the time, and people are going to be privy to that. So people might not be willing to sell. They want to see what happens with Zach Wilson, but let's just kick the tires. You never know. Elijah Moore, listen, he's a very, very talented wide receiver. We know that already. So that's the reason why it's kind of a bet on talent when you buy somebody like that. And I think it'll happen. The Jets are running the second most plays in the NFL over 3 weeks, right behind the Bengals. And by the way, Bengals, we talked about them running the most plays in the league last year. Over the offseason, we've been talking about that. They're number 1 so far through 3 weeks. The Jets are number 2. So I would buy Elijah Moore. The target share can go up. I think him and Garrett Wilson can end up getting it done. Guys like Tyler Conklin, this target share might go down. The running back target share might go down a little bit with Zach Wilson. So there is room for both Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore to shine. And I think that, I think he's a solid buy right now, especially given the fact that he probably won't be expensive.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more obvious buys. And there's optimism surrounding Elijah Moore now, after, pessimism the first 3 weeks that he hasn't had the targets. Like, oh, maybe Zach Wilson will come back and save his season.
It's true. It's true.
That's good. That's good.
It's a little tough.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm not saying that you shouldn't buy him. Right now, people are clinging that, oh, maybe he will produce better this week. He will actually get the targets that we're looking for. But I don't know. What happens if, he doesn't get the targets and now he's sitting there and he's super cheap? Now that's interesting. He could be even cheaper, moving forward if he has a bad week.
You're right. He'll be way cheaper if he has a bad game with Zach Wilson.
And then this is really betting on, because this is what people are doing right now. They're betting on, okay, maybe Zach Wilson will save the season, but say he doesn't in week 4, but now he does in week 5. Suddenly he gets a bunch of targets in week 5. If you buy him after the week 4, if he doesn't perform very well, which who are they playing this week? depending on the defense, that could actually line up, and then I could recommend that you wait maybe because the stock might
I
go
I I,
down.
I totally
He's
forgot who he
playing
doesn't play
Pittsburgh.
this week.
Pittsburgh. All right,
Oh, okay, so
so
it's a little tough, but okay,
it's
it's
not
not
bad.
too bad
Yeah.
for wide receivers.
All right. So let's say your Elijah Moore owner waits. I want to hold on to Elijah Moore and see what he does this week, and then he does badly. Well, now the price is all the way down. You'd be like, saw
Yep.
it coming. I want to buy him anyway. So it's like I'll take him for pennies, and then you do that, and then I think you have upside there. Elijah Moore, we see the talent that he has. What he did at the end of the year, end of the season last season. He could get back to that. Like you said, wide receivers come and go. They fade in, fade out really quickly. I think maybe wait if you can't get him this week. If you can get him for cheap this week, I'd do it.
That's a great point. I like that. So if you can't get Elijah Moore right now, wait another week. Maybe he shuts the bet again. You buy him next week. I like that a lot.
Much cheaper too.
Now, there's one more guy I want to hit on real quick, and that's DJ Moore. I personally have no interest in buying DJ Moore.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield looks like shit. I made the mistake of thinking that Baker Mayfield can actually be a good quarterback, outside of Kevin Stefanski's scheme. I was wrong. He's terrible. And the fact that he has been, kind of acting like the Browns did him such an injustice by bringing Deshaun Watson in. I mean, I'm not talking about the injustice of what happened in the world, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about bringing in a quarterback that could take his job, right? He's like, how dare you, right? But now we're all looking at him as a pretty bad quarterback right now through first 3 weeks. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, right? Through the first 3 weeks. So despite DJ Moore's price being at the floor, I still don't want to buy.
Yeah.
Would you potentially, does that he interest you at all, even if he's dirt cheap?
It's really difficult. He has the talent.
Of course.
You have trouble starting. Like, I don't want to start him in either of my wide receiver slots or any three of my wide receiver slots. I'd want to start him at flex at this point.
If anything,
because the talent's there. We don't want to call him unstartable because we know the talent's there. But you can't even say, oh, maybe the Panthers will move for a quarterback. They'll get someone in here that can actually throw the ball. There's nobody on the market right now in the NFL to replace Baker Mayfield at this point. And I think this is they have Sam Darnold to pick from, and they have Baker Mayfield to pick from. At this point,
and PJ Walker.
Don't forget about him. But thank you for reminding me. But at this point, DJ Moore's production was better with Sam Darnold than Baker Mayfield. So, like, from fantasy perspective, you're actually cheering on maybe two. Would you take two more crappy weeks?
Let's bring in Sam Darnold. He'll get DJ Moore going a little bit, and then he'll get Christian McCaffrey going a lot. He's going to be checking it down to CMC all day long. That's what we want. So let's give it to Baker.
Yeah, you look at Baker Mayfield and say, as a DJ Moore fantasy owner, you're like, do we take two more crappy weeks of Baker Mayfield enough that he gets benched and they put Sam Darnold in? Like, that could work. Is that something we root for? It could work.
Let's go, Sam.
The problem, it seems to be Baker Mayfield, because even last season when the Panthers were bad and they had all the quarterback turnover, at least DJ Moore was relevant. He's not relevant anymore.
I saw a montage on Twitter of Baker Mayfield just like completely missing throws. And it was like mostly to DJ Moore. And I was just like, I had to turn it off. I was like, I can't take this anymore. It was so bad. Like missing windows, like obvious throws, like the timing was off, accuracy issues to DJ Moore. Oh my God, it was really bad.
It's too bad Matt Corral got injured. Man, if Matt Corral wasn't injured, that would be interesting. But
that would be extremely interesting because you know I'm a fan of Matt Corral. Coming in. So anyway, all right, guys, that's it. That's all we got for this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening and watching on YouTube as well. So we'll see you guys next week. We didn't talk about Underdog Fantasy, but we're going to be putting up a bunch of those picks, by the way. 7 out of 8 correct on Underdog Fantasy. All right. Listen, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I'm patting myself on the back from Monday night. If you use my picks, you wouldn't want some money. Okay. We're doing the same thing for Thursday night's game tomorrow. For those pick'ems, all you got to choose is higher or lower on a bunch of stat lines. Put them together. You can multiply your money. Use code UPPERHAND at underdogfantasy.com. Download the app and sign up. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. Zach, good talking to you, brother. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be talking about quarterback and running back rankings. and we'll be debating through that. Thank you guys. See you soon. Later.